12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM, and we're getting in the mood for our next show of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Kerry Fink, we're ready to go, and you've got some outstanding guests here for today. Kerry Fink is our host, and he's also the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Thank you so much for the good intro. It's always a pleasure to gather here lunchtime Wednesdays right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And thank you for those of you joining us online, WEJF.net. And those of you who find this later as a podcast, every place that you find podcasts, from Apple iTunes to Spotify to iHeartRadio to Hey Alexa, Play Me Helping Seniors. And I'm going to tell you the title of today's show, but we're going to meander our way to get there because we have so much good things that we need to talk about. So first of all, on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, I want to welcome you to today's show. And the title of today's show is Don't Confuse That's All That Can Be Done with That's All I Can Do. I actually like that. It's kind of a neat little motto anyway, but we're going to dig into that. And we have a couple of the best people on the planet in the studio today who very much are very significant in our community for their own contributions. But I am particularly grateful for all of them too, because they volunteer their time on the Helping Seniors Board. And if you know, Joe Steckler, when he founded Helping Seniors, after all those years of building up Joe's clubs and everything he did with the Brevard Alzheimer's Association, when I met him, and Dr. Lee Sheldon, you've known him way longer than I have, but I remember when I met him, he said, Kerry, there's more work to be done for seniors. That was 13, 14 years ago. And today, I would say there's more work to be done for seniors than ever before. Welcome, Dr. Lee Sheldon.
Always good to be here, Kerry. And I don't know if we're giving away a secret. It's good to be with you in the studio. We're doing this live together, which is wonderful.
This is, yes.
And to have the guests you're about to introduce here with us, I think just makes it extra special.
That's right. We have another fabulous friend of the Helping Seniors organization. She has been doing so much good work in the community. She is one of the trusted go-to people whenever somebody has a question about Medicare, Medicaid. Her name is Vicki Moore, and she has More Insurance Solutions. And welcome, Vicki. How are you?
I'm great. It's so nice to be here with you both today.
And, you know, I want to tell you that really the things that we're going to talk about today, we're going to kind of free range. I was thinking about, what do they call them? Free range chickens, where they kind of roam all over the barnyard. Well, today we are going to have a serious discussion about some of this because, Dr. Lee Sheldon, you're a person that not only has made a very significant impact on the community. I jokingly often call you the father of dental implants because you kind of like brought that into this whole area to begin with.
Now call me the grandpa.
The grandpa of dental implants. But not only that, as a periodontist, your practice, you get involved in research, so you're always on the cutting edge of everything that's going on. They ask you to publish papers, speak at conferences. In fact, you spend a lot of time helping other dental practices get it right. So it's such an honor to have you here with us and talking about all the things of helping seniors today.
Thank you. And helping seniors is why we're here. We're going to talk about helping seniors because it's getting to go time now.
Yeah.
You know, July, you think July is a resting month for us? No, we're going to talk about what's happening in July, and that's just to move things up towards the ultimate event in October.
Yeah, and Vicki, we are going to, I thought that's actually where we would free range first, is we would start talking about a couple of the events that are coming up. First of all, Vicki, tomorrow, a lot of us are going to be out at Friendly's right there at the corner of O'Galley and A1A, which is the Thursday gathering of the Friendly's Car and Truck Show. And I guess we're going to have a Mazda Miata out there tomorrow. So you're going to be able to come out and get your Helping Seniors car raffle tickets. Why do we show up at these car shows, Vicki? Talk a little bit about the car raffle and all of that.
Well, Friendly's, as you know, Kerry, is one of my favorite places to be. That once a month on the Thursdays, it's a great place to be because all of the car enthusiasts are out there with their really cool cars, and we are lucky enough to be out there representing Helping Seniors of Brevard, offering raffle tickets for our big event in October. So we love to gather out there, and there's good music and good times with some really, really great people and really cool cars.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And Joe, I'm sure, Dr. Sheldon, you remember this going back into the Brevard Alzheimer's days with Joe, because I remember he and AJ Hires, the car dealer that everybody knows and loves from Boniface Hires automobile dealerships. I remember hearing them talking. They said, and AJ was saying to Joe, he said, we've been giving away cars for charity going back into the 90s. I mean, I guess it really goes that far back, because I guess Joe was trying to figure out how to raise funds so that we could build up or he could build up the Joe's Clubs and all that. And it really was part of making all that happen, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people realize that Joe's Club is named after Joe Steckler. And Joe built Brevard Alzheimer's into a very viable organization, and other organizations are duplicating what Joe did.
Yeah.
But then it became, all right, what can we do beyond the Alzheimer's group? And Joe decided to say, all right, we're gonna do something for all seniors, and he started helping seniors at Brevard. And what'd you say? This 13 years already?
Yeah, going into 14 now.
Wow,
Can you imagine?
Yeah. And we started. Our initial meetings were upstairs in my office, where he would have to climb the stairs every single time in order to be able to meet. We had a good dedicated group, and it was a fledgling group. But the thing behind this was that Joe kept on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And each time he pushes, he opens up a new avenue. And when he opens up that new avenue, you never know what's within that avenue, and more people come.
Yeah.
So, our initial group was, I think it was 6 sponsors, 8 sponsors, a very, very small number. And look where it is now. If you just go on the Helping Seniors of Brevard website, you'll see all of the people and all of the organizations who are vetted. I mean, vetted to be able to help you, that we know they're going to be good and talented and honest, and they're going to be able to help you while they're helping the seniors and dedicating their time and their money in order to be able to make sure that the environment for seniors in Brevard County is just as good as it could possibly be.
Absolutely. And Vicki, as you know, when we started, Joe was able to get a wonderful space for us donated through the great folks, Dr. Craig DeLegdish and the team there at Omni Healthcare. They made space available in their building, the Omni Healthcare building right there at 1344 South Apollo Boulevard, just a couple of blocks from the hospital. So we always explain we're right there on the medical campus in downtown Melbourne. And one of the things that, kind of keeping in line with Joe got the Joe's Clubs built, he also helped us get everything going with the center. So we actually had a naming ceremony, and we renamed it Joe's Senior Resource Center, celebrating his 90th birthday last December. And, Vicki, you have seen how many great organizations have joined forces with us to help us. We always talk about it takes a village to raise a child, but I really think it takes all of us to do the right thing for our seniors.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And we are so fortunate to have that space and to have all of us in this, helping seniors coming together. And it's really great to be able to, for me, working in the Medicare industry, maybe working with the Medicare client, but then they may say, well, I've got, my sister is looking for an assisted living facility. So, I've got great resources to refer them to. So it's just such a great, like you said, a village that we've got so many great people to help one another and to help everyone we're trying to help.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is amazing is I think that was Joe's vision. He wanted to get resources together so that if somebody presented with a certain, like, here's what I'm trying to solve, that if we didn't have the answer immediately, we would know who to go to or what would be the right next step and all that. We call what we do as an organization senior navigation. And so because of that, Joe established the county senior information helpline. It's that free call to 321-473-7770. I'll give you a second to grab a pencil and I'll say that again. But the helpline served over 5,450 callers last year. So it's seniors, their families, those who love and care for seniors. That number again is 321-473-7770. And then the other thing that Joe has always been serious about is that we have to get together and educate. He talks about us making an aging plan, meaning everybody, just like we have a hurricane plan, we don't want the storm, we just want to know how to react to it. But he's been very serious about all of us should look at our own situation and try to map out the things that are important to us. And that's why, Vicki, maybe having these kind of resources all together are so important, because somebody can literally, you as an independent Medicare agent with so much experience in this, somebody can sit down with you. You are able to sit down and look at their particular situation, whatever it is, whatever the current medical situation, doctors they use, prescriptions they use, and help them navigate to find out the right way or the optimal way that they can manage their situation with their insurance products.
Yeah, that's exactly true. So, I mean, I get a lot of interesting inquiries and phone calls, and people coming into the office there at the senior center, and everybody's situation is different. I had a call this morning. Somebody has Medicare and Medicaid, and she was starting to get copays, and she didn't understand why. So that's something that we're working through, trying to figure out, what is her level of Medicaid? Why is she all of a sudden getting copays when before she was not? So those are, just one of the interesting questions that I get. And sometimes, people's circumstances change. They may have Medicare, maybe a spouse dies, and then maybe they qualify for Medicaid, and they hadn't in the past, and that's something I can help navigate as well. So it's lots of interesting questions. No one senior and even somebody younger than a senior is in the same situation. So I always feel like it's kind of like working a puzzle. Everybody's circumstances are different.
Yeah, Vicki Moore with Moore Insurance Solutions, and our guests today, Dr. Lee Sheldon and Vicki Moore, and we're going to dig a little bit further into our topic, but I want to hit something that I think is important, something Vicki said, and also something Dr. Sheldon we've talked about before. A lot of times people will see these national commercials. They say you can call 1-800 and we're going to tell you about your best insurance coverage. Or a lot of times, Dr. Sheldon, I'll see those commercials where they say, "Oh, just call us at 1-800 something, and we'll help you get going with your dental, whatever it is." And for me, it's almost impossible to imagine that somebody wants to call an 800 number, talk to a call center, which who knows where they may be, and then try to get advice over the phone about something that at the end of the day is very much local and personal to you. So, Dr. Sheldon, we see all these ads where they say, oh, you can get your teeth, or we have locations all over the USA and all those kind of things. And you're calling an 800 number instead of talking with your neighbor who's right here and understands everything is going on locally.
I think there's good sides and bad sides to that. Certainly, dental care, and particularly dental implants, have didn't come into being, but certainly people understood what the expense was for dental implants simply as a result of one provider that is a national provider that advertises dental implants, and all of a sudden it made it okay to charge $50,000 for a dental case.
Wow.
So there's that side of it. But whether you're talking about that national provider, whatever that national provider is, it comes down to the individual and the doctor that you'll be seeing within that corporate entity.
Yeah, there you go. Because I was thinking, like, when you call an 800 number, you might get somebody who's very technically proficient and very good at what they do, but you might not. It's not like you can sit across the table and say, "Well, explain this to me, doc."
It's true, and within a private and the independent practice setup, which is what we have, we've decided how we're going to deliver services. The corporate entity has also decided how it's going to deliver services. And so there's a certain structure within which all of us operate in. I decided how our structure is going to be, and Dr. Furtado and my son have decided to take that structure and move it forward, and they've done a great job. If you're taking a corporate entity, they've also decided what that structure is going to be. But within both structures, you then have the talent and the ethics of the doctor that you're seeing. Mm-hmm. And that's really what you're dependent on. So no matter who you choose, whether we're going corporate or whether we're going independent, there still is that talent and ethics orientation that you have to have, and you have to be able to interview, and you have to be able to understand what's going on and why the decisions are being made, so that you can determine that what's being recommended to you is actually in your best interest.
That's a challenge with both of the things that you each do, because as a consumer, we really don't have enough information to know best. I know I've talked with Vicki many times about how when you get into that time of the year, I guess it's in the fall, where your mailbox just fills up with mailer after mailer saying this is your best Medicare choice for the coming year and all those things. And it gets so convoluted and you get so deep into the weeds about what's covered and what's not. And there you are, you're trying to navigate these complicated scenarios by yourself. Or worse yet, with the help of somebody who's sitting, 1,000 miles away in a call center who's looking at the same internet that you are. Whereas, again, I kind of come back to, boy, if you can sit down eyeball to eyeball with somebody and say, well, here's my situation. How is this going to help me? Vicki, I see you do that a lot with folks when you'll sit down and work with them about their particular coverage. And I guess at the end of the day, I don't mean to sound selfish, but each one of us has to kind of like chart out what's going to be the best for us individually, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So here we are with Dr. Sheldon, who helps people every day with their teeth, and I help people choose Medicare plans based on different reasons. And there's definitely a lot of people that make decisions on Medicare plans based on dental, because that's a really big area. And because as we age, things happen to our teeth, and so there's lots of different options, and a lot of people probably or may not know that Medicare does not cover dental. And so if you're losing your teeth, or you need your teeth extracted, if it's just a natural progression of what's going on with you, it's not going to be covered by Medicare. The only time that Medicare is going to cover your dental is if maybe you're in a car accident, or some kind of irregular thing happens to your mouth, then it could be covered. But other than that, it's just not going to be covered. And so there are plans out there, though, that offer extra benefits that can help people. And so it's, is it always is it always going to be the dentist that you want to go to, that you've known and trusted for years and years? Not always. So you can't always be you can't always go to where you want to go, but there's definitely some plans out there that can help you. And oftentimes preventative options is what's typically covered, but there are plans out there that will give you some extra coverage, whether you need extractions, or very rarely will you find implants, but every once in a while there's a plan out there that will offer implants. It's not going to be like a beautiful new set of teeth implants, but it may be, if you've lost one or two teeth for different reasons, it may be covered. So it just varies.
I want to ask Dr. Sheldon about that, because I know you and I have done radio shows about this before, where we've talked about the fact that typically, and I remember this even from days when I worked corporately and I had insurance through the workplace. And even though they said you had dental and you had eyeglass coverage, seemed to me like it was very, very minimal. It didn't really help once you got past maybe they're going to clean your teeth once a year or something like that.
It's true, and being in a non-insurance practice, then I made certain decisions, and obviously, if I felt that insurance was going to help our practice and help our patients and help us deliver better services, then I would choose to take insurance. But I've chosen not to. And some people will say, well, you don't take insurance, I don't want to see you. And that's fine. And there are others who say, I want the specialized services that our office provides. And given the fact that I don't think I can provide the services that I want to provide within the insurance framework, then we choose not to take it. Understand, and Vicki will agree with me, although she may say it in a different fashion, that every time an insurance policy is sold, there's a certain amount of profit that has to go to the insurance company. And therefore, that money that could be going towards dental care may be going to the insurance company instead. So then it's up to the dentist who needs to charge, let's assume, $1,000 for a service, may also have to subscribe to a particular plan that says, well, I can only charge $700 for that service. Well, you could assume one way, well, dentists make so much money that $300 isn't going to make any difference to the dentist. Or you could look at it a different way, as I do. We're working on a 30 or 35% profit margin, and if we're working on that kind of a margin, then essentially we've discounted those services down to nothing, no profit, nothing for the dentist. So the only other way that can happen is to change the efficiency of the practice. We think we're pretty efficient, or to change the level of service, the type of lab, or something in order to be able to make sure that that insurance dollar that's coming in is actually profitable for the office.
You know, I'm smiling as you're saying that because I remember a comedian once talking about, here's a thought to think about. Someplace by process of elimination exists the world's worst medical doctor. Just by process of elimination, if you could sort them all up and figure that out, there would be the world's worst doctor. And they said to make it even more frightening, think about this. Someplace he or she has an appointment with someone tomorrow. And so one of the challenges that I think as a consumer, as I opened up to say, is like we really don't have enough information ourselves to kind of figure out when we're on the right track or not, which is why I think it's so important that you talk to people locally, right? Because you have to get a sense for, is what you're being explained making sense? And so I think when it comes to questions about whether you're looking at what's the right coverage for me, whether it's the Medicare, Medicaid kind of coverages I'm looking for, or whether just any kind of a purchase, whether it's dental or otherwise, you know, we always say you are the boss of you, and you have to make a decision that is going to be right given all the factors that you have to balance through with. Vicki, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is that as you're talking to potential clients, you know, do we sometimes get over on what I would call the auxiliaries? Like, I mean, I would think that I'm thinking that as I look at Medicare plans, I want to make sure I'm getting the best medical coverage because that's probably going to be the biggest part of my budget. And I don't want to get distracted because something says I have a dental plan or an eyeglass plan, and then miss a coverage that I might really desperately need on the medical side. How do you help us navigate through questions like that?
So when somebody is choosing the type of coverage that they choose, I mean, there's so many different factors to consider, and what is the most important thing to them at the time. And it depends on their situation. I mean, as I mentioned before, I mean, there are people that have maybe a Medicare supplement and they have no dental coverage whatsoever with that plan. So if they want to have any sort of preventative or additional coverage, then they're going to have to go through, you know, they're going to have to choose a standalone dental plan, which that's something that I offer, and that's totally separate from, you know, what's included in a Medicare Advantage plan. Right now in our country, in the state, I mean, we're kind of at 50-50 as to what people go with once they're in that, once they're choosing plans. It's 50% are going towards supplements, 50% are going towards Advantage plans. And a lot of the reasons people are going that direction with the Advantage plans these days is that they like those extra benefits. But that doesn't offer everything. So it really is up to those people, what is most important to them. Are they really just choosing their coverage based on, what's going to be the best medical care? And I would say that's a big majority. But, I also run into people that really need extra help with the dental. And so there are plans out there that can really help them. Yeah. And it just depends, it really just depends on their situation. But as with Dr. Sheldon, I mean, the plans aren't going to always be the best option. I mean, sometimes they've got to make their best decisions, and maybe going with somebody like Dr. Sheldon is going to be their best option.
Good. We're going to continue the conversation with Vicki Moore and Dr. Lee Sheldon on the other side of the mid-show break. Stick around for part 2 of Helping Seniors.
And we're back for the second half of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get things going once again with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here's Kerry Fink.
Hey, thank you, John Harper. And we were just actually kind of smiling during the mid-show break. We could almost have a Helping Seniors board meeting here today because we have so many great people who volunteer so much time and help keep Joe's vision moving forward about helping seniors. John Harper, you served as vice president going back with Joe all the way to the beginning of all this, and back just like Dr. Lee Sheldon all the way back to the Brevard Alzheimer's days. And You've been there like every step of the way.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yes.
A long time. So, let's go ahead and have the board meeting.
Okay, well, then the issue is how do we help seniors here? But let me make sure that I reintroduce my guest, because we want to welcome you back to the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF, if you're listening online, WEJF.net. Thank you. And if you're catching this as a podcast, or maybe you just tuned into the broadcast, the cool thing is you can go wherever podcasts are found and catch the first half of the show maybe later. Or like we see a lot of people do, there's a topic that's of good interest for them, and then they're going to want to share it with somebody else. So that's why we always make sure that everything we do, whether it's the TV, the radio, the articles we publish in Senior Scene Magazine, they all make their way to helpingseniorsof.Brevard.org. And we also publish out on the YouTube channel, and we also put all of that together on our Facebook page. So it's accessible, and then it's easy for you to send a link to a friend and say, hey, I heard Vicki Moore talking about Medicare and Medicaid, and I want to get some good help because I'm a little bit confused about my plan. So welcome back, Vicki Moore, Moore Insurance Solutions.
Well, as always, it's great to be back.
Now, thank you, Vicki. And I want to make sure, because we didn't really get a chance to do this as we went into the mid-show break, I want to make sure that people know how to reach you if they have a question or they want to get some help with their insurance. What's the best way to get in touch with you? I know your office is right there in Joe's Senior Resource Center at 1344 South Apollo Drive, but maybe somebody wants to give you a call.
Yeah, so if somebody would like to give me a call, the best way to reach me is at 321-272-0218. And I'll just say it again, 321-272-0218.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to point out is that it's very inexpensive to get the benefit of your wisdom and experience and years of service in this community. I know we've joked about this over the years, that you have to go to school like all summer long, because then all the insurance companies are busy telling you what the changes are going to be in the coming year. So this is something that you really have to stay on top of all the time. And yet your cost to somebody that calls you is FREE.
That's exactly right. It's free. So yes, there is. And I get that question a lot. Is there a consultation fee? And there is not, because my services, I enjoy helping people and educating them on what their options are. And when they're first turning 65, there's the big decision: do I stay with original Medicare or do I go with an Medicare Advantage plan? Or, maybe they have TRICARE for life. So lots of different options for people. And so I just let them know what their choices are, and then they can decide, what is the best option for them.
Okay, and one more time, the number is
321-272-0218.
And I really think that's important that you deal with somebody locally. And Dr. Lee Sheldon, you are, what I love is about this is almost better than free, because how often can you sit down with not only a firm that has really pioneered and led the way on all this for years here locally. I mean, you can't walk into a shopping center and not see a publication that doesn't have you, Dr. Lee Sheldon, and Dr. Michelle and Dr. Matt on the cover. And it's really a great read because it gives you a lot of information. And then, too, you guys have the ultimate mouth manual where you've actually published so much information that's of value to consumers. And then on top of that, you're sought after, like, not only nationally but internationally when they're talking about studies or things that can improve practice or service. And yet, one of the greatest programs that you offer is something that helps us as a charity called Solid Bite Gives Back.
And Solid Bite Gives Back, the examination in our office is a 2-hour experience. It includes a CT scan, full mouth x-rays, a good bit of time with me, and then the assistants that you're speaking with are trained assistants that I've been working with for many years, because the important thing is to be able to understand what the predictable dental options are for you. And also to determine when something should be done. We talk an awful lot about what is done, but sometimes it may be more important to decide when it should be done and maybe when it shouldn't be done. And that's what we try to do in our office. I can't tell you how many times people will come in for a second opinion. They've been told they need something, and I say, no, you don't. So while we are known as an advanced dental office providing some of the best reconstructive services anywhere, at the same time, we're also a good office for determining whether something doesn't need to be done or whether it should be done. And that's the reason for the 2-hour visit. That's the reason why I need all the x-rays and the CT scan. I need to be able to discover what's really there, the pathology that's there, the infections that may be causing a problem for you, and determine what the ultimate long-term plan might be best. The worst thing you can do is have one single procedure done on one single tooth, when in fact all the other teeth are having problems and those teeth will never be addressed, and therefore the money you've spent on that single tooth may not be worthwhile. So it is the judgment. It's the judgment and the time and the skill to be able to determine what's necessary, what isn't, and then provide the service in the best way you possibly can.
Yeah, the words that come to mind when I think about the excellent work that Vicki does, the excellent work that you do, is kind of like trusted advisor. And what makes the Solid Bite Gives Back thing so beneficial is that I guess for making a donation that goes directly to help us in the work of helping seniors, you're getting what really amounts to, I think you said it's like $700 or $800 worth of things, because a lot of times they say, oh, you can come into the office and this is what we charge for the consultation, but then you're going to pay for the x-rays and all the other things. But we've done so many radio shows along the way where you said that it's crucial for you to have that data so you can navigate somebody the best possible direction for their particular situation.
It's true. And so for $50 or more,
yes,
to helping seniors of Brevard County, you can get all of the examination that I just described. You just bring in a check, write the check to helping seniors of Brevard County, and you get all of those services and the full 2-hour experience, all the x-rays.
And you guys are right there on Sarno Road. How do people call to make an appointment or say, hey, I heard you guys talking about that, I'd like to see about it?
If you call the office right now, 321-259-8000, and let them know that you heard us on Helping Seniors of Brevard, you'll have that special all taken care of. If you listen to this online later on, the same thing. You can also go to solidbite.com, and now you can make those appointments online. So that's 2 ways to get to us.
No, it's good. And, I really did want to kind of dig into something that we've been talking about. I said at the outset of the show, we're calling this show Don't Confuse That's All That Can Be Done with That's All I Can Do. And Dr. Sheldon, that's actually an article you've got coming out in the Helping Seniors newsletter in the, I believe it's going to be the August edition. So I want to preview a little bit with you about that. But we started out talking about the fact that you are a resource that other practices look towards for excellence. In fact, you actually started a YouTube channel that kind of is designed to educate dentists. Talk a little bit about that.
We've had this channel going for several years, but I started it in earnest only 2 months ago, and I'm proud to say yesterday we got our 700th subscribers. So
wow.
This is for dentists. This is not for patients, although anybody can look at it. But I'm talking to dentists, and we're really talking about treatment planning. In fact, the name of the YouTube channel is called Practical Treatment Planning. And what we look at is everyday situations or maybe uncommon situations that we see in our office. And I go over all of the x-rays and the models and everything that has to do with the treatment, with the care, and talk about how we arrive at a decision to treat or to not treat, and what kind of treatment we do. So there's an awful lot of data there on how to do something, but very little data on when to do something or when not to do something, as I said earlier. And that's my purpose here, is to be able to think through a case sequentially in order to be able to produce the best result for the patient.
I think that's one of the things that as we've done TV shows, radio shows along the way, and we've talked about that, and it just seems like good general advice to us as consumers as we're talking to anybody that's in a realm that we ourselves may not have expertise in. And I could extrapolate and say that could be if I'm talking to Vicki Moore about trying to figure out my Medicare best approach, or if I'm talking to an elder law attorney and I'm trying to figure out what's the best documentations and things that I might need. But it's also the same thing. It's like there is such a value when you have somebody that is a true subject matter expert. And you've talked about the importance of correct diagnosis as almost being like, I can't imagine if you don't get that right, it's going to be hard to imagine how a treatment would turn out well unless it just happened that way by accident.
It is. And dental treatments are expensive. There's no question about it. So that before you decide on the expense, you've got to decide whether it's going to be worthwhile. The worst situation we can have is when a patient starts treatment and realizes that he or she can't finish treatment. And that means that all of the treatment that was spent towards one goal, that goal was never reached. And the worst case scenario is spent money trying to save the teeth, and then you didn't have the money to go forward, or perhaps the judgment wasn't there, or whatever, or you're just prone to disease, you eat a lot of sugar, whatever it is. And then you have to then say, well, I spent $10,000 on this, and now they're extracting my teeth and putting in dentures anyway. So that's the purpose of long-term planning. I've got to know what your habits are. If a patient says to me, I see a patient with a lot of decay, and that patient says to me, well, I'm going to continue to eat sugar, then I'm going to say, then it's not going to be worthwhile you're spending money on our saving these teeth. There's sometimes when no treatment and just let it go to the point where you finally need the extractions may be the best thing for you. The thing that we don't want to do is leave you with infections in your mouth that make you prone to not only disease, dental disease, or disease of the jawbone, but also that now we've got lots of data to say that spreads beyond the mouth and it goes into the heart and makes you more prone to cancer and all of the other things. So we've got to make sure that we're looking at this as a health profession first. We divide this dental care, I try to divide it into two separate stages. One is health care, okay, and that primarily in dental disease means get rid of infections. The other is decorative care, and that means the crowns and the bridges and the implants and the partials and all that type of thing. We always want to concentrate on the infections first and make sure the infections are gone, whether through some of the complex procedures such as periodontal care or root canals or extraction, which is a lot less expensive. We don't want to keep you in a situation where you're chronically diseased and have a chronic problem in your mouth, which may spread elsewhere.
You know, we've talked about this. In fact, I think we did a TV show where you talked, and I remember kind of like almost teasing you about it. I said, you know, it's funny that you being kind of like a leader in dental implants and all of that, kind of pioneering that, would come up with a topic of are too many teeth being extracted. And yet that's one of the more popular shows we talk about, because I guess, you know, that was something even that Vicki Moore was mentioning earlier in the show, is like, you know, so many people come and say, well, just yank my teeth out because they're bothering me so much. I just want to do something different. And yet you're always like, well, hey, not quite so fast.
It's true. There are some patients where they've been told that the periodontal disease can't be treated. You're going to lose your teeth anyway, so you might as well have them extracted now. And I've got to say that's probably more prevalent than you'd want to think.
Wow.
But then the other part of it is that if the teeth are extracted, you're then prone to other problems, bone disappearing and things like that, so that dentures may not fit very well. But if we're reaching an affordability problem, and I don't have well-to-do patients. I have some. But if patients are coming in and they're deciding to spend their time with us, I've got to give them the inexpensive options as well as the expensive options with the benefits associated with them, so they can make the best plan for themselves. And there's sometimes when a patient comes in where if we were to do ideal care, where they'd spend lots and lots of money, but they can't afford it. And I say, well, given that situation, the best thing we can do is to treat the disease and keep some teeth there predictably so that you can hold on to a partial denture for a long period of time. So it takes the expense that would have been there for dental implants and reduces it by 70, 80, 90%. So that's the purpose of this planning. You know, Kerry, you talked about it, and I'm repeating you. Joe's idea and your idea of getting your ducks in a row. We want people to be able to get their ducks in a row with regard to dental care so that they can complete their care in whatever way they choose predictably and then move on to maintenance care.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And so I don't want to give this away, because I want you to look for this when, if you're listening, I want you to look for this when you pick up your copy of the Senior Scene magazine, which is available at 500 locations around the county. But we titled your article, "Don't Confuse That's All That Can Be Done with That's All I Can Do." What do you mean by that?
Dentistry, as every profession, is a talent-oriented profession. Vicki is very talented at what she does. We think we're pretty talented too. If we're just looking at how much does it cost for this and how much does it cost for that, frankly, it has everything to do with the person who's doing this or that. So when somebody says that's all that can be done, well, I have plenty of people come in who say that's all that can be done for periodontal disease, and I see them and we solve the periodontal disease problem. So understand there's a reason that specialists exist. There's a reason that some of us are more highly trained than others that spend the time to do that. And while it seems like it may be expensive, it may very well be worth your while to seek out the best trained person, at least to help you make the judgment call, and then you can take it from there.
Yeah, I remember my father always had this expression. He said, "I'm not rich enough that I can afford to buy poor." And I always thought that's an interesting thing. What he was really talking about is you've got to get the right direction for whatever it is that you're trying to do, and you have to make sure that what you spend your money on is going to do the thing that you hope it was going to do. And so when I hear, you talk about that from the dental medical perspective, when I hear Vicki talk about that from the Medicare, Medicaid side of things, it's one of the reasons I think Joe was so smart when he put the Helping Seniors group together, because he wanted to get, and you said it, Dr. Sheldon, you called it the talent. So it's the talent who's not only knowledgeable about all the things that they need to be within their lane of traffic, but that they also have a commitment to really trying to find the best path for our seniors. And I see that out of everybody that is connected to Helping Seniors, and especially those of you that volunteer your time on the Helping Seniors board to help us keep this whole thing going. And there is I remember talking with a lady, her name is Debbie Beard, and her company is Next Chapter Real Estate, and she's what they call a senior real estate specialist. And she explained to me, she said only 2% of all the real estate agents in the country take the time to go and seek out that certification. And what does it do? It makes you aware as a real estate agent of some of the peculiar needs in senior real estate, because you get involved in Medicaid look-back periods, VA benefit look-back periods, and there's things that a normal, just regular run-of-the-mill real estate agent isn't going to be aware of. You guys take the time to learn that, and I think that puts you in like that top 2%, 1%, whatever that number is.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when Michelle decided that he wanted to begin reconstructing gum tissues around dental implants, which is very, very seldom done, particularly in a full arch case, so the patients could have a smaller prosthesis of the mouth, he went to Portugal 3 months in a row and took 4 or 5 day courses each time. And that allowed him to deliver a service that patients are benefiting from tremendously. It becomes a high-level service. It's a plastic surgery type of service. But still, we have the opportunity of developing that. That's what we mean by highly trained. There is... we all went to specialty school. Those of us specialists, and my son went through advanced training in general dentistry as well. But what happens afterwards? What is it that keeps you going? You can take the required courses, the required number of hours per year, which we all have to do. But then, what is the quality of those hours, and how many more hours are you really doing in order to be able to produce the best result that you can for your patients?
Yeah, and Vicki, I see that. I see you burning midnight oil. Like every time it gets to be ahead of that enrollment season, it's like you're like, I've got all these different companies, all these different changes to study, but you really have to invest if you're going to stay at the top of your ability to help people.
Well, and that's very true. And, just with the industry itself, it's just a very compliance-oriented industry. And so we are required every single year to take, to be recertified. And then with each individual carrier, and I represent many of them, we're taking individual tests as well. So yes, and then it's always an exciting time as an agent for me to find out what the benefits are going to look like for the upcoming year. And so those are typically released, at the 1st of October. And so that's well, in my world, it's an exciting time. I like to see what the benefits are going to look like, and what with my members, are they on the best plans for the upcoming year? Because this industry, the Medicare industry, as we all know, it could be a little controversial, and it's ever changing. So it's interesting to see what that's going to look like. And I definitely try to stay on top of the game and learn as much as I can.
And my guess is, Vicki, that the title of my article, "Don't Confuse That's All That Can Be Done with That's All I Can Do," applies to your services as well.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
Well, I'm going to turn a corner and we're going to talk about Choose Your Flavor Adventure, but I want to make sure before we do that, Dr. Sheldon, number to your office if somebody wants to find about Solid Bite Gives Back and the great thing that we were talking about that may be available to you to answer some questions you may have going on with whatever's going on in your mouth.
321-259-8000, and I hope that's coming through with this rattly voice.
You did fine. And by the way, I'm just going to say 321 while we're tossing out phone numbers here. The Helping Seniors number is a great number because if anything flew by too fast, and you remember 321-473-7770, that'll connect you to everything. And Vicki, how about you? What's a good way to reach you directly?
That would be 321-272-0218.
So here's what everybody is doing on the last Saturday of this month. We're talking about the 27th of July, and this is happening from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., and we're going to actually be right there at Joe's Senior Resource Center. It's called Choose Your Flavor Adventure. And another one of our favorite people who's really invested in doing the right thing for seniors, Chef Jillian Zebris of Chefs for Seniors. They come in to your home and make sure that they are serving you meals that are according to what your doctor says. The doctor says, well, you need to have a little more of this or a little less of that. And she's able to put together menus and things that help you in that direction. Well, don't confuse that because her and her team of chefs are really gourmet, top-notch chefs. So they are going to put on the dog for us on the 27th of July. That's a Saturday afternoon, last Saturday, and you're going to be able to drop by Joe's Senior Resource Center. We're calling it, it's not lunch, it's not dinner, it's a Saturday afternoon sip and stroll. We just found out we're going to have some great music with Jerry Z and the company, and they are amazing jazz trio that are going to be providing the soundtrack for this. Chef Jillian has got her chefs together. They are doing literally 6 or 7 different tastings, pairing it with some nice teas. So we're calling it a tea and tasting. So some are iced teas, exotic, some are straight ahead, and what she's doing is she's trying to make this fit with the theme that we're doing with the Helping Seniors car raffle. And so you're going to be able to wander around through these tasting stations, try everything there, maybe even 1 or 2 of them more than once. You're going to have a great afternoon with us, and the fun part is everybody who comes gets to take home their very own Helping Seniors chef's apron. So if you're like me and you're messy, even if you're just trying to throw something in the microwave at home, this would protect your clothing while you do that. And Vicki, talk a little bit. We're going to have a lot of fun on that day.
Yeah, I am so excited. This, as you said, it's the first one, and hopefully it's going to be an annual event, but it's going to be really fun. I get to work with Chef Jillian, and she is so fantastic. I mean, her food's fantastic, and all of her chefs are fantastic. And of course, it's for a great cause, helping seniors. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And I think several of us will be. Well, I'm a sponsor, so I'm excited about that as well. So.
Yeah. So how do you get a ticket? You're going to call us. I'm going to give you that number. So grab a pencil. You can call us at 321-473-7770. 321-473-7770. The tickets are, I think, very, very exceptionally priced. One is $45, but if you and your spouse, best friend, significant other, whatever the right, just a neighbor, whatever, however you want to do it, 2 tickets for $75, and each of you gets to come to the tasting. You're going to try all these gourmet dishes. You know, if you went out to some of the tasting kind of things, you know, they're usually like $15 a meal or a plate, and here you're going to be getting to go 6, 7, and maybe grab a couple of refills, have some exciting time with all of us there at the Helping Seniors Organization, supporting the work that Joe has been trying to do all these years, and that we're convinced that is more important now than ever before. So it's a great fundraiser for us, and you get to go home with your very own chef's apron. So you got to give us a call, 321-473-7770. That's about the time we have for today's radio show on Helping Seniors. I want to thank our very special guest, Dr. Lee Sheldon with Solid Bite Dental, and also Vicki Moore with More Insurance Solutions. And we will see you next week right back here on 90.3 FM WEJF.